got my coffee. Like now I'm nervous. I'm like, is everything
okay? Because we do this every time, I have to do it. It's like, I feel like I'm forgetting something or I'm not doing something, but it's all relative. All right. Looks like
we are live. I see it.
Yeah, I see that we are bloody live. So that's a good thing. Hey, folks. This is Dr. Shantella Sherman. I'm here with the lovely Christie P. And so today, oh my God, we are super duper excited because in addition to helping to celebrate Coronation Street's 60th birthday, 60th anniversary, yay, we're going to get down and do a little bit of talking about Carla and Peter, the famed lovely couple, Carla Connor and Peter Barlow, who we think belong together forever. And as you know, if you've been following both of us or either of us, Carla and Peter have been a part of our research and just our editorial themes and our streams of consciousness and things that get on our nerves and things that we love probably since 2010. So that's a good 10 years, a good decade of just really trying to figure out and to dissect these characters. Those of you, again, who know me as the eugenics historian. So you would say, how in the bloody hell did Carla and Peter get into discussions about eugenics? And we'll get into that. But I just want to make sure that you guys know and recognize Christie over here, who has done an amazing set of research and a wonderful blog just about these characters and the way in which they kind of feed off of each other. And it's an amazing bit of research. And so we'll have information up that we'll put in the comments as we go to make sure that you guys can access all of the data research that we've done, because we did hard science, which was beautiful and brilliant. And so thank you so much for joining me today, Christie. So introduce yourself. Tell folks a little bit about you.
Well, I'm Christie. I started watching Coronation Street. Gosh, I was a kid when I started watching it. So watched it with my parents and my aunt and everything. And so I've loved the show since I was a kid. And then actually, funny enough, my favorite character, I think at the time when I was really watching it, was Leanne, when Leanne and the Battersbys came on. So I actually really loved them when they came on. And I was all about Leanne and Nick and everything, and it was great, and they were awesome. And then Carla came into it, and I was like, oh, this is the character. This is the one now, because she was just so, I've always been drawn to strong female flawed characters. I like the characters that are flawed, and I like the ones that are, they're not goody, like they have to have an edge to them. And I like that. And she definitely came in with an edge, and she was really good. And so I really just kind of was drawn to her character. And just it kept going. I'm a librarian. I work at the Weston branch at the Toronto Public Library. I'm the branch head there, so I love to research. I don't get to do a lot of it because I work with customer service. So mostly I'm working with the public. Obviously not as much right now because we're on like a half lockdown, but that's what I do right now. But I love to research. So when this new storyline came up, I just got right into it. I'm like, I need to research this, but I need to get my thoughts down. I need to put things on paper. And a lot of my blog is in response to things that I've seen, comments that I've seen online about, whether it was about the Carla and Jordan situation originally, also about Leanne's situation with Oliver. And now I focus mostly on Carla and Peter on this. So yeah. I'm excited. Wow. I love them. I do. I love them together. So, and just to give everybody a bit of a warning, we're on a bit of a delay on Facebook. So give us time to respond back to things. So I can see that Leah has written, I'm here. Hey, Leah. So, but we're a bit delayed.
Yeah, but look, we're both trying to like keep talking, but it's like, all right, I need to make sure I'm paying attention to who's leaving comments. And guys, please, if you have comments, throw them in here, because I noticed that, I'll get a lot of emails about things that have been written and they don't necessarily get fleshed all the way out when we're talking about them. So if you have questions about the research that either Christie and I have done, please put them in the comments so that we can talk about them while we're here. And I don't think we have a time limit on this, so we'll talk until we kind of, we're tired of talking. So there's a lot. But you mentioned the fact that, Carla and Peter individually have such amazing storylines. And what I started to find out, and you tell me if you found the same thing, these are two characters I think that have probably been written in such a way that they're so multifaceted and multidimensional that there's always something else that comes back up. And I don't necessarily see that with the other characters. So there's always, right, there's always something else that kind of pops up and you go, for as much as you thought, Carla was just this go get 'em type of person, you start to see all these little chips. And you kind of go, okay, wow, I like her because she's a survivor. She just kind of keeps it moving. And she's had some amazing storylines. Allison King, brilliant. Chris Gascoigne, amazing. And they hit their marks. So it's really, really believable. But at the same time, you go, I can't think of an additional character on the show that's had that level of just all of these multifaceted things. I thought maybe Bette Lynch at one point. But I don't think anyone beyond that has been quite as multifaceted.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that as Allison King had pointed out in the Queens of the Street talk, where she said that she was slated as the modern Elsie Tanner, and that was so accurate. Like she absolutely was. But I think that they've developed her character much more, and I mean they have to, right? Because it's not the Coronation Street that started in the 60s. It has to adapt to the lifestyle and the way that things are fast moving right now. And when you're watching TV shows, people's attention spans are just a lot shorter now. We need to go faster and have more things pumping and more excitement. And so they definitely developed her character much more, I believe, than they did with Elsie. But Elsie was fantastic. She's one of my favorite classics. So yeah. I was so happy when I heard that. I'm like, yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
But do you also think that perhaps Carla Connor, for as many different layers, there are all of these hidden layers that are still there. And I think it's odd that even the way she's scripted, you'll have the person who's supposed to be closest to her, which at this point is still Peter, who will say things like, I never knew that about you. The whole playing snooker. I never knew that about you. How could you say that? This is the love of your life, but there are things you have no clue about. And it's just all of these different things that just kind of pop up. So it's like, as much as you think you know her, there's always some little element of surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you think that that's happened with any other characters on the show though?
Not really. And I mean, like when you think about a lot of the characters that are there that have a really good developed kind of character storyline and plot lines and everything, like when you think of like David Platt, right, but he's been there since the beginning, so he has somebody who is literally been able to flesh him out as you go, and he's constant. With a character like Carla, she came in 2000, end of 2006, so really kind of 2007 she really kind of started with the show in terms of really developing that plot line for her or her backstory and everything. So you just consistently keep getting all these little bits of her. But when you compare her to another character that came in around the same time, so Michelle, Carla is far more developed in that way, very much more. Like her character is just, it's like an onion, right? Like to quote Shrek, she's an onion. They keep peeling the layers and there's more to her every single time. So
and I think you're right. I think the other thing that's rather odd, but also exciting about the character is that when Carla Connor comes into the storyline, as beautiful as she is, as exciting as she is, she's virtually invisible to the people who are closest to her. So her husband, the fact that he hadn't told anyone that who he worked with or who worked for him, that he was even married. I thought, how do you just leave that out? No one knows who she is. And then you constantly have this Connor family who's always there. And I just kept going, why is his sister and his brother, they're always at the house, and Ryan is always there. So you don't really see the two function as a couple at all. And even though she's trying to make her way and do her thing, it's always like she's kind of pushed to the side.
Oh yeah.
And that was just, it was very disturbing starting out, but I kept saying, they're about to blow this character up. I can see that she's going to jiggle things up to such a point that she'll be the last one standing. And of the Connors at this point, she's officially the last one standing. And you go, wow, okay, that's pretty darn amazing. I still think though that there's a bit of invisibility when it comes to exactly who this person is. I think her childhood, the fact that there's still so many unanswered questions. And so, you know, again, as the person who deals with, as a eugenics historian, we're always trying to figure out, is it environment or is it genetics? And so that's how Peter Barlow's character, that character originally came to the forefront, because there were all of these weird lines. We kept saying, what are they saying? Peter keeps saying, it's in my genes. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's because of my dad. And I'm going, but you were dropped off at age 6 with relatives in another country. You're gone. So how does that fit into this? So are you saying literally this is the genetics of it? And so that whole thing with the Barlow boys.
Yeah.
The one great episode where all of the men are talking to each other, I said was amazing with one flaw. Simon needed to be there somewhere.
Yes. Thank you. I was waiting for it. I'm like, what is she going to say the flaw is? Yes, absolutely. 100%. 100%. They keep leaving Simon out for some reason in this. And then they bring him back, and he's a character who I love him in certain ways, and I hate him in other ways. And it's just like, because I don't feel that he's properly being given this proper development, really, when it comes to his dad and when it comes to the Barlows as a whole, you know? So yeah. Continue. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just thought, you know, how can you talk abandonment? And with Ken, it was the women always take precedence over the children, which even that was odd, because of course Ken helped to raise Tracy.
Yeah.
And so if you go back to those early episodes, he's still trying to date Deidre, and so she's a wee little girl, and he's trying to get to Deidre, and he's bringing her coloring books, and he's saying, oh, I'll take her to school, and you know, if we're going to have dinner, let's have dinner with Tracy, so that she is integral to their relationship. And so it's, how odd is this that you take on Deidre's child, but your kids, you don't see them, and then you'll have Peter down the road say, he always tried to send gifts and presents, but it was always stuff that no one wanted. He didn't know me. So he sends presents, and we just kind of look at him and toss them like, we don't want this. This is junk, you know. But Simon has the exact same story.
Yeah.
You know, only I think it may even be more painful to him, because he can see his father with these women. And so how odd is it that you're living in your grandfather's house, but your father is across the road with his girlfriend? Or so it would be really, really interesting, I think, to see what happens with Simon as he gets a little older. And are they setting him up? Even though I don't like this, I've heard rumors that he'll have a crush on Shona, which I just thought, okay.
I'm gonna have a sip of my coffee. Yeah.
Right, it's like, I don't think that's, you know, where you want to go with this. But are you setting him up to be the ladies' man that both his father and his grandfather, and now his cousin, has turned into? I know.
Oh.
So, you know, he's just walking around angry and stomping and you know, painting walls and all this. So it's like, that's the one thing I really want them to do, is just kind of flesh him out.
Really, yeah.
Bit, you know. So tell me what you think of the new storylines that are coming in for Carla and Peter. And we can backtrack a little bit about the history of them, but
it's hard, because I gotta say, I was really pumped last week when I wrote this blog, and then it just like went down this week. There's so much that's going on right now that there's certain things that are bothering me about the storyline. And one of the things that bothers me is how right now they're portraying alcoholism, and the fact that and it's not that they're portraying him wrong, they're portraying him incredibly accurately. It's the fact that he has blamed Carla for drinking. Adam has blamed Carla for Peter's drinking. Simon has blamed Carla for Peter's drinking, and no one, and it could be any other character, has piped up to say, hey, you are responsible. Peter is responsible for taking a drink. That's it. That's the 12-step program. That's in the 12-step program. That's in recovery. That's what you learn. It's, yes, it's a disease. It's something that you have to learn to live with, because it's not curable per se, but it is, you can control it as best as possible. So you are the only person responsible for actually taking a drink. Nobody else is responsible for you taking that. And the fact that they haven't said it yet is really sticking with me. It's a little triggering for me, having been in a relationship with an addict. So it's something that is, it's something that I feel was dropped in this. And maybe being a Coronation Street fan, I'm like, maybe they're going to bring it up in the future.
Okay.
But for somebody who isn't a long-term Corey fan, for someone who would just tune in and start watching it coming up to the 60th and think, oh, this is great. This is, you know, I'm interested to see what the show is. And then seeing that, I mean, alcoholism affects a lot of people. And if it doesn't affect you directly, you know somebody who it affects. And so I feel it was a bit of a disservice to not have at least one character in these 3 or 4 episodes that Carla has been blamed for Peter's drinking point out that she's not to blame for his drinking, the same way he technically is not to blame for her sleeping with Adam. She chose to sleep with Adam. I mean, she was self-destructing, and you can understand the stress that led to the situation, the same way you can understand the stress that led Peter to take a drink. But ultimately it was their decision. It's their choice to self-destruct and what they chose to do in their self-destruction. So that's a sticking point for me that bothers me right now. But
that is a great point. And you literally have, we have Leah again. She's like, yes, Christie, so true. This seems to be something that they do often. With Carla especially, she always gets the blame for things and never gets anyone to apologize. You're right. And that's bare annoying, because too many times she's blamed for things and then you find out she wasn't the culprit, and it's just like, oh, they wave it off. She forgives everyone and just kind of moves on with it. Nancy, yes, I see that you're here, and you're right. I think that the whole idea with Ken and his children and the grandchildren and the extended family is that at the time that they were doing this, a single man with twins, it was necessary for him to send the kids off.
Yeah.
It didn't mean that Peter didn't blame him, though. And so again, I think that's the mind of a child, even in an adult's body, where you don't get past the hurt, and then you don't understand that you're doing the same thing to your own son. And that's why I said, if they'd had Simon somewhere in that scene that could literally have looked over the fence and gone, hey, Dad, but isn't this what you keep doing to me? Like, you left me with Leanne while you were dating her and went off, and while you were out there, you were with another woman. And so it's all of these stories that keep kind of repeating themselves, but within one family.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it a little weird. And then, yes, blaming her is dangerous, giving the guilt that led to her psychosis. Peter knows that. And I think that one of the things that was extremely interesting in 2018, Acumen was able to sit down with Allison King and with Chris Gascoigne to talk to them about the characters and the roles and all this, and to try and break down our theories of what we thought was happening with them. And one of the things that both said was, Peter is extremely childish. He's extremely petty and he's childish. And so I think that you saw it in this instance like you've never seen it before, where you know that this woman is suffering the fact that you've been drinking and that she's cheated. And then you stand in front of her and pull the top off the bottle. He hid the bottle in the first place. So you're going, if you knew you were going to leave, you could have left that bottle sitting there, but you knew she would worry and think that you took it. So he wanted to hurt her. And so it's all of these things where you're literally trying to figure out, you can't say all of these things and just say, okay, but Carla, I didn't mean that. I just said that to hurt you. And it's like, yeah, but you can't take it back. Right. He laughed about the rape. He laughed about the psychosis. And I just thought, you're being really mean.
That was nasty. Oh my God.
But he's done it before. And he has
Yes,
a
he has.
pattern of doing it with her, to a point where he says to her, but you know, I don't mean that. And she goes, yeah, I know. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt and that it's not still there, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I think one of the things that I'm still saying is that while Corey does an amazing job of bringing therapy in, they bring it in for substances,
Yeah.
but they never bring it in for couples.
Yeah.
And so I would love to see, I'm hopeful that they'll work through this, even though I'm really, really peed off with Peter at the moment. And I kind of I want something to shake Carla out of it, so that she can kind of get her footing. I don't like that everyone is blaming her at this point.
No.
And everyone looks like they're getting back together. So, you know, you even have, you know, everyone sitting at the bedside with Adam going, oh, well, he's been clobbered now. So let's hope he's okay. And that nasty Carla, it's all her fault and all of this. So you kind of want her to be able to catch her footing, and you want them to try and resolve this. What do you guys think about the Barlow baby? Is it still a potential?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I'm waiting for Leia now.
I want this to run through the comments. Is it still possible? Because that's the first thing I thought. Okay, everyone will get back to normal. Everything will you know, kind of settle. And then they're going to go right into, I just think there's a storyline about a Barlow baby coming up.
You know what? It would be, I've never been kind of here nor there about it. To me, it's like, if she has one, she has one, great. If she doesn't, great. Because I do think that, and Leia will know, because I talk to her about this often, is it bothers me in the sense that people always make comments about women who don't have children, and make it that, you know, if they don't, you don't know real love until you have a kid, you don't know this. And it's like, it's really generalizing, and it's not a nice thing to be telling people. And it doesn't mean that your life is fulfilled. Not everybody has to have a child to have fulfillment in their life. And so for her to have a kid, great. If she has one, if she doesn't, it's not neither here nor there for me. But if they do go that route, I hope they go through with it all the way, and it doesn't lead in a miscarriage, because she is 45 and she has a kidney, one kidney, and she's one functioning kidney, and she has well, she was on antipsychotics. I guess she's off of them now. But I mean, at this point, that's something that could be very interesting on how she would handle that kind of pregnancy going forward with this, because she is on the older side. But it also would show great risk for Corey to not say, okay, well, she's not young, so, you know, she's obviously going to result in a miscarriage, because that doesn't happen. There's a lot of women in their 40s who have children. And I mean, yes, it's harder, but they still have children. So it would be really good if they did it in that way. So I'm all for it if they do that. Not for it if they do it only just so that she gets all kind of baby crazy and everything, because that wouldn't be Carla. Like, it wouldn't be her at all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think you're right. You're spot on. I think that, you know, there's something unresolved in the whole issue with her and motherhood. And I think with the first pregnancy, they had an amazing couple of episodes where she's talking to Michelle. And again, that whole eugenic framework came up, where it was just like, my mother was horrible, and so I'll be horrible. And right. And so it's not just the issue of neglect, but a belief that innately you have an inability to care for kids, you know. And so you know, it doesn't help that she wasn't particularly fond of Simon starting out. But he was being like a real, he was.
Can you blame her?
Yeah, I have to preface how I say this. Wait a minute. You know, he wasn't
like
being
punt
the
that
greatest,
kid.
right? He wasn't being the greatest little kid at that point. And I understood, you know, he's fighting back because he wanted Leanne, and, you know, I get that. But it was just the way that Carla would say, okay, look, if he wants to go over there, and I'm not really particular about having him here, let her take him. And that kind of threw me with Peter, where he went, okay, well, just, he was upset for, it seemed, a couple of hours. But then he just went on with it, you know. And even Simon becomes almost like a pawn in things, where it's like, I'm going to kidnap him because he's mine. I'm going to take him because he's mine. He belongs to me. But this is a recurring theme. So Carla at this point belongs to him. That's his missus. that Adam was with, you know, and so it was that whole ownership thing. I think that kind of played out. And so again, it pushes Peter into this space where it's like, you really need help. You know, you just need, and you need relationship help. You know, he and Simon should have been in therapy at some point to just kind of deal with some unresolved issues. And so I would love again to see Corey kind of deal with, you know, everyone that needs therapy. You know, it's that 80 hours on the couch. It's not, there was something traumatic that happened. It's like, I just need help coping right now. I'm not sure, you know, we love each other, but we can't seem to be in the same space without making each other angry or upset or hurting one another. And we don't know why.
Yeah.
So there's a cause to that somewhere that had nothing to do with him drinking or her sleeping with anyone. But what caused them to just go from being really great a couple of months ago to this foolishness? It's like, what's, there's something else there.
There has to be, because, and that's the thing, there's obviously, we knew something with Jordan had sparked this rift between them, but they're not explaining what it was, because for Peter to be the first one to tell her, you know, like, this was rape, you had no control over your mind, like this, you didn't consensually sleep with this person, and he was so adamant about that and wanting to go to the police and everything, and then just months down the line says, oh, well, you know, you slept with Jordan and I didn't get angry about it. It's like, wait, what?
Right.
Where did this come from? So there's something there that was the sticking point for him, because him leaving the pub and like gripping his jacket and twisting it and needing to go and release, because he probably couldn't do what he wanted to do, which was protect her. One, protect her at the time when she was abused, and two, protect her now, go and avenge her, do something, and he couldn't do it, and he respected her enough. And it seemed like they were hitting this great path of that maturity. Like, she told him, I don't want you doing this, and he listened to her. And then it was just like, it's okay, we're just gonna have him implode anyways. It's like, wait, I don't understand, this isn't the soap trope. If they're off screen, they're supposed to be happy. What do you mean that they're not happy now?
Right, just like, what just happened, you know, and again, I think that there's something else there, because we don't really see Carla's childhood. And I think the only person who could put real insight to it would be Rob. And I'm curious as to whether or not he'll show back up at some point.
Oh, I hope so. I love Rob.
But there's something else in how sexual abuse and sexual violation is being defined that initially made me think, could there have been some type of childhood sexual trauma that hasn't really been discussed? And so it's no accident at the same time that you go from alcohol to gambling, but sex is always in that same space. And so there's something else there that, you know, we're literally trying to break it down, but we're going, okay, the writers haven't written that, so we can't actually put that there. But there's something just really, really odd. And again, because they're pulling her apart a little bit at a time, there is the guilt there, you know, but again, when we start thinking about the abuse that was taking place in the household with the stepdad, George, and at some point, Carla having to have people rescue her. So whenever I look at the whole Connor family coming in, it was almost like, yeah, this is someone who needed to be kind of pulled out of the situations that she was in. She was in an abusive and neglectful type of home, all of that. And then even her brother, who she loved, was a bit of a jerk. You know, he's stealing her money. He's going through all of these things with her. But by the time she gets married, it's almost as if she pushes her own family aside. They don't exist anymore. And I will never forget when Rob first shows up. He's fresh out of jail. She hasn't seen him in years. She won't touch him. She won't hug him. She won't acknowledge him. You know, he's choking Peter at the time, which is interesting, you know, but.
And he deserved that.
Right. Michelle was the one like, hey, you know, it's good to see you. Right. I know Carla's still standing there like, hey, what are you doing here? When did you get out? But she's like, I have nothing for you. I'm not trying to let you into my house. I don't know why you're here. And there's something even to that. There's something to this. I'm just pushing you to the side and you guys don't exist anymore. So it'd be interesting to see what else there is. And I think that this psychosis, even the breakdown of I'm a bad person, I'm evil inside. There's something, and it even comes off as if it's a child speaking, you know? So there's something else that just hasn't really, as far as I'm concerned, hasn't come to light yet.
Yeah.
But here's the question. Could she possibly have hit Adam over the head?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so. It doesn't feel like, you know what it is? She has never been able, and that is one thing that's consistent with her character. Unless she's physically threatened, she won't hit somebody. Remember when she had Tony, right? And Tony
Okay.
was attacking her in the factory and she had the gun and he goes, "Okay, what are you going to do? Shoot me in the back?" And he turned around and her face was just like, "No, I can't." Like she couldn't do it. And then she
Right.
told him to run when he came out. Like I don't think she has it in her. She really doesn't.
Okay.
I think only if she's ever in a situation where somebody's trying to kill her, like when Jimmy was trying to kill her and then she hit him with the
Okay.
candlestick, and then she was horrified by that because she thought she killed him, and then she thought she killed 2 people in Victoria Court fire. Like she just has so much
Right.
guilt. I don't think she has it in her myself. Maybe the psychosis has brought something else out in her where she's just like, I'm done being the victim. So I don't know. I don't think so, but
yeah. Okay. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think
yeah.
I initially thought, you know, could Simon have done it? And we have a few people who think Sophia's on here, Dr. Sophia. She's thinking Simon did it.
Yeah.
He's shown himself to be able to throw a punch or two. And he gave it to Leanne pretty bad. So especially if he's hitting him from behind, it's possible. But I'm not sure who else could have. Gary is the natural suspect.
Yeah, I wonder if it was Sarah. And that she hit him and she didn't mean to hit him as hard as she did. Like maybe she didn't expect that it was going to be something like this. Though the person walked in, it seemed like they walked in with a lot of confidence, and it didn't seem like Sarah. So I don't know. I have a feeling it might be Gary, just because that would nicely wrap things up. But it seems too obvious to be Gary. So I don't know. I think it might be Simon.
Yeah,
I think it might be Simon.
I'm kind of leaning towards Simon at this point. Okay. So Carla and Peter are supposed to be two sides of the same coin. Do you see that? Is that something that we can officially accept at this point?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They are just, they have their self-destructive tendencies. They may be different in some ways, but they don't hold back. When they are self-destructing, they self-destruct. And a lot of it is coming from this idea, like you said, that, you know, all of their belief of their genes and their childhood and everything having this massive influence on them growing up, and that they feel that they are a wreck, that they feel that they are Carla feels that she's evil or rotten to the core, and Peter feels that he's a train crash and that people are just going to be, you know, better off without him. And I mean, they've both said these things. Carla's had 3 attempts on her life to end it. And it's very, it's almost like they know their vices and they know their self-destructive tendencies, and then they resort to their self-destructive tendencies in order to prove the fact that they are what they believe themselves to be. So I do 100% believe they're two sides of the same coin. They really are. They're two alike in that.
So let's think about this. Let's play this out. And guys, jump in here. I see a couple of folks. Carla is more mature. Yeah, just barely. Well, no, you're barely. True. That is true. She absolutely is. Nancy, you're very right. Carla, I think, is probably one of the most underrated, sensitive people on the street. You know, she's always there to try and do stuff for people. And it's just assumed that you can call her out and act crazy with her. But again, she always forgives people and she just kind of carries on. if I were Carla, I would never speak to Sally again. It's just like every time something happens, Sally is right there, like, Mrs. Connor, this, and this. And, you know, she turns on her. And it's like, no, Sally, I understand. Okay, not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things. Hey, I see
Hi, Sophie.
Okay.
Darling.
And I see Emma Jane Lohman, purely because surely if it was, she would say, because like she was hiding Peter's top and stuff. Yeah, that's true. Well, and this is the other thing. Carla and Peter are always trying to fix things for each other. That absolutely every time makes it worse.
Yes. And I alluded to that in my second blog where I said, you know, like Peter, like bless him, he came in, but he just in typical Peter Barlow fashion made everything worse. Like he just made everything worse. It's like just stop.
Like you're hiding stuff. You're telling her pack your bags. Let's just leave town. They do this to try and rescue each other, but at the same time, I think that it's a stereotypical theme within soap operas, but I think that it's one that makes all of us go, okay. If they can't really do without each other, you're waiting for one to rescue the other always. And so when we get to the point where he's in a treatment facility and she's in the hospital and they found her and the psychosis is hit, you're trying to figure out which one of them will get to the other. And so I will be the first to admit that when Roy finds Peter and brings him there and you see Peter turn that corner, I literally just went, okay, I can get the Kleenex now, because it was like, whatever the cost to myself, I'm going to go in and I'm going to get her. And even though he was in no fit state to rescue himself, let alone her, the fact that he showed up, quite frankly, saved her. I absolutely believe that, because I think it was at a critical point. And even her father, Roy, no one could really reach her. But everything kind of clicked as soon as Peter shows up.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, you know, I just thought, okay, all the screeching and the paranoia, everything just stopped for that brief moment because he's there. And so that made it, you know, it was very touching. And at the same time, it was rather scary, because I just kept saying, if anything happens to him, I'm not sure what would happen to her, and vice versa.
Yes. And it's funny that you said that, you know, Peter was the one who came to her, kind of thing, and basically was the one who really kind of saved her, because he wouldn't have been able to, I don't think, him being in rehab, he was consistently thinking about Carla. Is she okay? So he was never going to get the proper treatment because of the fact that he was never focused. I mean, in rehab, you have to be focused. You have to be 100% on what it is that you're in there for that addiction, that process. And he was never in the mindset to be in there. So it was great that he had gone, because he was going to be away from alcohol. He was going to be away from that temptation, but he was never going to be in the mindset to get himself healthy. Until he knew that she was okay. And no one was going to tell him that she was okay, because nobody wanted him to come out. And again, it's that whole soap idea of, we're trying to do the right thing and we make things worse. If you just tell people, you guys have like iPhones, you could FaceTime, like she could see him and everything. It's like, no, it's like, we're not doing that. So
no, you know, and Dr. Sparks, you know, we have a joke about the fact that at some point Johnny walks into the room, Carla's in the hospital bed, and she just says, Peter, please. Like, if Peter's not here, I'm not doing this. And so literally her treatment, Peter needed to be there to you know, be the go-between, you know, to facilitate all of this. The fact that she's hiding behind him, holding onto his shirt like a kid, you know, it was, like I said, and it was amazing. I think that the two of them did an absolutely amazing job of convincing me, just, oh my God, someone help them, please. That is the other thing. When they're in absolute tumult, everyone is around to kind of bracket them, but they need support always. So as soon as she's off the roof, and as soon as, you know, he looks like he's coming back in and everything's okay and he's on the wagon, I don't understand again how they have him working and sleeping in a bar with the alcohol so close to them. Now I have heard people before say that they have issues with alcohol and they work as bartenders. And it's like, as long as it's around me, I don't feel tempted because I'm not being kept away from it. It's almost like when you restrict me, then I feel like I need to sneak to get it. But if it's always around me, I don't crave it. And so
It's basically like the premise of Cheers, right? Sam Malone opens up a
Right.
bar and like, yeah, he's a recovering alcoholic. Yeah. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. So I just thought, but with Peter, it's like, okay, I think that may have been too much. I think it's always been too much. I think they're best sometimes. Is it the street? When they're away from the street, they seem to be fine.
Well, let's be honest, that street is
I mean, I want them on the street, but can they get a little bungalow, somewhere else, and you see them every day or whatever. I want them on camera, but it's like, can you get off that block, get off the street, because literally the cobbles are doing something to you, and it's rather incestuous is a bad term to use for this, but it is rather incestuous. Everyone there knows them, and in most instances, they've been with them. So when we count up the women for Peter, we did this once before, Christie, and it was like, okay, let's try and figure out who has Peter not slept with.
Yeah.
Rita.
It's Audrey.
Okay.
Maybe Kathy. I don't know. They have a glint there.
Right. When he tried it on with Liz. I mean, so you start, right. You remember that, the street looks cursed. Yeah, I get that. There's something about that street. Trams are falling into it. They're constantly having fires. That's one little area, but it's like they have a hell of a lot of stuff going on there sometimes.
Yeah.
But again, I think between all of the women that Peter's been through, Maria is still there. I forgot about him having a brief thing with Maria.
We all have tried to forget that.
Right, just okay. Look, I think he's going down.
I think he's trying to forget it too.
Right. But they're still around each other. And you're going, okay, this is a little bizarro. But then you bring Carla into this and you start having the same issues. So you're like, okay, Nick is still there. And now you have this man's family who you've kind of run through at this point, which is not good. And even though we joked about it when it first happened, the fact that they actually wrote in the script, who's next? My dad? Oh, geez, did they do that? And literally when Simon came in the cafe the other day and he started talking, and she said, I want to help you. I'm thinking, stay away from them. I don't want you to be accused of trying to make a pass at Simon now. I don't know what this is. So it's really, really, really weird. And at the same time, Nick is sitting over there with the puppy dog eyes and he's sad. And I'm thinking, don't come anywhere near her. Please leave her alone for a minute and just.
Roy needs to just put her up in the flat and just close the doors and be like, you're not leaving here until I tell you to. So I will bring you food.
Not push the tray in, close the door. You can't come out. I just think they need to, because again, I think sometimes the sex is as much the addiction as the alcohol. And with her, with Carla, she regrets it as soon as she does it. And you're just like, so we did this with Robert. Hurry up. This shouldn't have happened, out the door. Poor Daniel. I don't even know if I'd be able to look her in the face. It's like that really, I mean, and he, I know. And the writers are brilliant. They do stuff where you just go, what the hell is this? Yeah. Carla needs to avoid all men for the foreseeable.
Yes, Sophie.
Maybe just let it go. But the writers put this thing in, and it's like she sleeps with Daniel, and he says, "Okay, let's go for a drink." And she says, "With you? You just slept with him, of course, with you. Like, it's okay to sleep with you, but I don't know if I want to go out and actually have a drink with you." And okay, it was the most bizarre bit of dialogue I had ever watched, and I'm going, okay, let's just keep moving on with this. And then he's like, okay, like we're gonna date. yeah, we could just hang out. No, we don't want this. But
No.
even then, Peter spied it. He could tell from the first moment they walked past, she's up to something.
Oh yeah.
And, and he was pretty pissed off as soon as he,
Yeah.
what is this? He called it before anyone. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He knew.
Oh my God.
Lucy has a really good comment here, actually. She says, I think that Peter believes Carla is too good for him and always has. That's why he takes such pride in being her savior, but why he is so self-loathing when he needs her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that, because, and I think that, again, in the last couple of weeks, you're starting to hear the dialogue come out from his inner thoughts. And so when he says, my nephew has the great suits, he has the shiny suits, he's tall and striking, and so it's like, wow, it wouldn't matter if you were roadkill, she's running to you because you're this is who she wants. So I think in his mind, though, it's always been, like he said when they first got started, he's way out of his league as far as he's concerned. So what did he tell her? You're off the charts. All right. So you're beyond gorgeous. Like, what in the world would you want with a skint alcoholic bookie? Okay. But she makes her case, and so I think it's weird that so much of his self-esteem is tied into what she feels about him at any given moment.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like with Peter, he has, being an alcoholic and being like a recovering alcoholic, and he always will go to try to help people who also have alcoholism or attempted or what they believe. So with Yasmin, he went over and tried to assist. And again, breaking all kinds of what you learn at AA and everything else. Like, just don't get involved with anybody in your social circle. You can direct them somewhere. Just don't get involved, because you're blurring the lines there of friendship, of an ex with Abby and all of that kind of stuff. Like, you're blurring the lines. Just give them the directions to where they need to go and then stay out of it. But it's like tied into his self-worth that I think that's the thing he really understands well, and he knows how to overcome it because he's overcome it so many times, that he knows how he can be triggered by it and what other people can be triggered by. And he's trying to almost develop this, I think he's trying to prove to himself that he's not useless, because again, when you're an addict, it's something that you feel like, I'm useless, I'm a piece of trash, I'm all this, like all of that kind of self-loathing. And I think that really generates in how he reacts to other people, and why he keeps trying to get involved and trying to save everybody. He tried to save Carla, he tried to save, with their addictions, right? So Carla, with Yasmin, Abby, all this kind of stuff. He always tries to get involved to assist. And I think that's really tied into his self-worth. And when it comes to Carla and saying things like, him feeling that he's not good enough, I think he really does feel that he's not good enough for her, that he, even though he's helped her with her addiction and everything else, once she becomes stronger, he feels that he's not as good as, or he's not on her level. And so he's always trying to get back to that level of being kind of on an even keel with her, but he can never get himself there, even though it doesn't matter if he's skint. It doesn't matter if he doesn't have a business. It doesn't matter if he's driving taxi cabs. She loves him. Like, she genuinely loves him. It bothers me, and I get into this probably later, but it bothers me how fast he told her that he didn't love her on Monday's episode. It bothers me so much. And I know that it's most likely him knowing that he looked like he was in so much pain, and like he kind of knew that he pushed himself too far, and maybe this is his way of dealing with it easier, is to push her and make her hate him so that he can just give up. But it really bothered me how fast that flew out of his mouth. I was like, whoa, whoa, Peter.
He didn't believe it. He didn't believe it when he said it. And she didn't believe it. So I think that, again, that is the great thing. That's also the sad thing, the tragic thing about the two of them. She knows, if he walked out on her, it'd be one thing, but she's sitting there like, I know he'll come back. Well, no, will he do something to keep him from being able to come back? That's her concern. But her thing is, Peter's not going anywhere if she's there. I mean, it's not going to happen. I have Nancy over here saying she needs Roy.
Yes.
Roy has already said that was the most disturbing thing he had ever heard. Yeah. Well, in the education, I think that again, when you look at Nancy's also saying that Ken's education, and I guess his standards for certain things probably put Peter in a space where he feels like he's not living up to certain things. And I think you had a great scene once where Nick and Peter are fighting with each other, and it's just a ridiculous argument. But he's, Nick says to him, how do you feel being a 53-year-old man living back in your father's house? You're driving a taxi. You have nothing. Mm-hmm. And Peter says something curtain that it ended, but literally Peter sat there in the chair for a minute and just thought, like, I really don't have anything. I really, and I think that, you're very right, Nancy. I think that as he gets older, yes, Lucy Jones, he has an inferiority complex. And I think that sometimes you get with the person, whether you're dating them or marry them, where they become your social currency. Yeah. They become that other thing. But I think the fact that Carla, for all that she is or isn't, she absolutely unadulterated. She loves him no matter what. And he gets that. I think a lot of times he doesn't feel he deserves the love that she is trying to give him. And so that abuse, she's not even arguing. We talked about the fact that she doesn't even argue with him the way she once did. I said, now they're just acting like kids. They're stomping out and slamming doors. Now this complete turnaround is like, you all are being vicious. You're being absolutely nasty with each other. And in some of the instances, Peter isn't drunk when he's saying some of this stuff. Sophia Beasley, I think a lot of Peter's problems are based around his insecurities, and he questions his worth a lot. I think that's true.
Oh, yeah.
Sophia, Dr. Sparks is saying sex is a coping mechanism for Carla. I think it is. Yeah. But again, and so all of that, because, and someone just mentioned earlier, the whole Carla sleeping with Allie.
Guys, I'm trying to take all of these things out of my mind. I'm trying to pretend it didn't happen. If I say it didn't happen long enough, it didn't happen.
I mean, the weird thing about it is some of these are not, she's not on the hunt looking for men. It's almost like someone made a quick advance towards her. Allie said, oh, I used to have a crush on you. Did you? Well, the crush isn't over. Okay. So at that point, it was like, yeah, he leans in to kiss you. That's when you go, okay, come on. Technically, you're my nephew. Yeah. And then I don't even want to get into that whole Connor thing of her first husband and Liam technically being her third cousin.
The fact that was written in actually still bothers me, because I will admit that I loved Liam and Carla when they were first on, and I thought that they were just this awesome couple that you knew were never going to make it. You knew they were never going to get that chance. They were tragic, and I love that. And so when they made Johnny her father, I was like, wait. Oh, and even she was like, oh God, Paul, she was like,
right. So Paul, Liam, and then you still went and slept with Allie. So
yeah, that's the difference. You didn't know about Liam and Paul at the time, but you knew Allie at the time. Come on, Carla.
And you're right. I think as much as I like Carla with Peter, there are a couple of very delicate scenes between Carla and Liam that I just thought beautifully written. The whole, Liz Taylor, Richard Burton, that whole scene, and it was like, okay, that was just touching. It was one of the most well-written scenes I think I've ever seen. And it's like, okay, I think she and Liam could have been okay, except for the fact that technically Michelle would have killed her.
Yep.
Yeah. And if Michelle didn't get her mother-in-law, oh my God, that woman, I have nightmares about her, and she hasn't been on the show in years. It's like, give me a break. So That wouldn't have
She's
been
horrible.
she played the character, aces, but it's like,
Oh,
oh my God, this woman is insufferable. And so it's like, you not only were you with her oldest son, you have to go back and tell her, yeah, I slept with your younger son too, and I'm probably the reason why he's dead. Okay.
yeah.
It's like, run, Carla, run. Don't look back. Okay.
And
So
it's
then to
funny that
turn
you
around.
mentioned that. Yeah. It's funny
Yeah.
that you mentioned that too, because I really do believe that a lot of how Carla pursued Peter stemmed from Liam. And it's because the last scene she had with Liam, the last conversation she ever said to him, the last thing she said to him was a lie. She told him that she didn't love him. And the next time she saw him, he's dead. And she will never get over that. I don't think she would ever have gotten over the fact that she lied. Even if he didn't believe it, she probably felt that she sold it enough that he believed it, right? So when she started pursuing Peter, because she did try to stay back originally, like she did have, she got drunk and she kissed him, and she was, embarrassed and everything. And it was only when she found out that Leanne was really pursuing this affair with Nick that she started going, okay, so all's fair in love and war then, because let's not forget that Leanne was very instrumental in saying to her with Liam, and saying to her, like, if two people are happy, really happy, if you're in love, that's all that matters. Everything else is just stuff. So everybody else is just collateral damage, really. Like, it's just, don't worry. You need to go for what's happy, what makes you. So I think she really took that this time when she went after Peter, and she was like, I'm not letting this go. I'm not letting this go. And she clung to him. So.
But how odd is that? Leanne gives her the advice that eventually leads to Carla snatching her husband from her. But again, Leanne, and again, when the Acumen students try and pull this apart, and it was like, yeah, we don't really like the fact that she was running after this married man. But it does help the situation that Leanne was in the process of cheating on Peter at this point with Nick. And so it's like, okay. But once again, Peter bounced back from that initially, and he and Leanne stuck it out. And it's like, okay. So, I think that again, you kind of see Peter gravitating towards someone who can look after him. But when everything is nice and calm, he creates just like the worst scenarios. He fought Carla off for quite a while, though. And I will commend him for that. I love Leanne. I'm staying with her. I'm not doing this. But I think it was after the rape situation that Peter's coming to her rescue. And then it's reciprocated to some extent. So that whole thing, it's weird how it took an entire year. So you say 2010, the end of 2010, she's after him. He sidesteps her to the end of 2011 when he comes full circle to her. And it was really weird because once again, I think that they make the point, two sides of the same coin. And they become each other's allies and best friends. I'm going to hide you from your wife because I know you're drunk. Yes, Nancy is saying Leanne and Peter were not well matched. I didn't think they were either. I thought that Peter was using her to be a surrogate mother to Simon.
Yeah, I think Leanne and Peter are similar to me as Nick and Carla, in the sense that I think that there was a genuine love there. And I think the way that they started out initially were based on some good foundations. I actually have to admit that I love the way Nick and Carla started. I love the way that it was kind of this nice little friendship, and they had that awesome wine tasting scene, and it was really cute and flirty, and they really developed this really like for each other, and neither one of them were in relationships, and neither one of them were cheating or anything like that. It was just something built on a really nice, strong foundation. And then obviously Erica came back into the picture with the baby and everything, and then she had the Victoria Court fire and everything. So then eventually they got together out of crisis, which seems to be a recurring theme for Carla and Leanne. For both of those characters, they kept getting back into relationships every time they're out of a crisis. So even Nick and Leanne, the way that he came back when she had the accident, she was dying in the hospital, and that's when he came back. And then she eventually kind of lessened up enough to let him in. But everything is out of a crisis.
Right.
They always get back together out of a crisis. Like,
End up with a crisis point. Yeah, Leanne and Peter were not a good match.
yeah.
Yeah, again,
They're
it was
good on
I think it was a safe bet. Yeah, I think it was a safe bet. And at the same time, Nick and Carla, for me, I agree. I think starting out, it was very playful. It was very loving. And even Roy said, I like that you have a good friend, you know, and like whatever develops, that's cool. So when he sanctioned it, I thought, okay. The problem is, as soon as Carla gets to a point where she's stressed or she's overwhelmed, because that's when the gambling starts coming. Johnny comes in, I'm your dad. Okay. She's gambling. Right. Darth Vader.
Back room, Darth Vader.
Yeah. So, you know, by the time, you know, he comes in, again, it's the coping skills. So she's drinking, she's gambling. All of a sudden, poor Nick is sitting there, it's like, she's yelling at you, she's screaming at you, she's being abusive. Now she's stealing your credit cards to gamble with. And I just thought, he's not going to make it because I'm going to say it like this, she needs someone like Peter who's going to, you know, just like really challenge that and go, okay, really, you know, at one point you see years ago, Peter's reaching, he's already half drunk. She comes in, she gets a glass and he pushes his glass forward like, let's get drunk together. She's like, okay, like what the hell? So I'm thinking, wow, the two of you are going to sit here and get drunk together. Neither of you should be drinking. But at this point, she just says, well, I'm not coping and you're not coping. So let's not cope together. And Leanne would never have done that. Nick would never have done that. But at some point, you have Carla saying, instead of in tears, like Leanne did a number of times, she says, you're going to rehab and I'm locking you in the house. And you know, she's going through this thing like, I'm not even dealing with this and I'm not going to let you sulk and just, you know, beat up on yourself. You need to go to rehab and that's it. And so I can appreciate again the fact that she sees him clearly. She has no illusions about the fact that this guy is struggling, but she is also struggling.
Yeah. And she said, Sophie says, I felt like Carla's bubbly side returned when she got with Nick, and I love that. And that is true. She did have a much more lighthearted sense of self back when they first initially got back together, or when they first initially got together and everything. And it was very cute. It was very adorable. But let's say Allison King wasn't leaving Coronation Street. Let's say they continued on with the, you know, she had the one night stand with Robert. Let's say Nick forgave her or whatever. I don't think they would have lasted because Nick would have gone back to Leanne at some point, the same way Carla would have gone back to Peter at some point, because those are the two couples that will always go back to each other. It doesn't make a difference who they're with. They always are drawn to each other. So I do think that Nick would have eventually gone back to Leanne. And you could see it when Simon was hitting her and everything. And he was so like concerned about her and he wanted to make sure she was okay and everything, because he'll always go back to her. And I think Carla's always going to go back to Peter, and the same. Yeah.
No,
my opinion. You know.
and I think that you're right. I kept thinking Nick is safe, but I think that it would eventually have come off as her being abusive towards him if any strife came up again, just because of the coping skills. But at the same time, Allison King told me you can't get past Carla and Peter. So if they have scenes where they're not even together, they're not together at this point, but they walk into the restaurant, they walk into the pub, they're looking at each other. There's always some type of eye contact. There's always something where they're aware of the other. And even if they're not trying to let the person that they're sitting with know, my attention is really on her because she walked in, or my attention is on him because he just walked out. And so there are a couple of amazing scenes. At one point, I think Adam is sitting with Peter and he's talking in Roy's roles, and Carla comes in and he tells Carla, sit down. Okay, well, Adam is sitting there. So that was Adam's cue to So Adam just said, okay, well, I guess I'm leaving. Just like piss off. Carla just walked in. You see her, right? And so she's like, yeah, okay, well, I guess I'm, but it's that. And so you start to see that I think the way the writers have done it over the years, they're again always aware of each other. They're always conscious of each other. And then the little silly things that they start to do, which shout out to the Carter fans. Oh my God, Twitter. I love you guys. You're amazing.
So funny.
You're
oh
fabulous.
my God.
So you guys help with so much of the research without knowing it because you're paying attention to these things. And so by the time, we get to a point where we sit down with Chris Gascoigne and go, okay, what are these little things where, Carla picks up your orange juice and she sniffs it to make sure there's no alcohol in it. And they're like, well, yeah, that wasn't even written into the script, but because the actors know each other and they know the characters so well, they play around with things. They're beeping each other's noses. They're laughing and joking through half the scenes because they know these are the nuances that the viewers like. They like that there's a natural kind of a natural chemistry. And at the same time, they're playful and they're silly. A lot of ad-libbing. Thank you, Emma. We love you too. It's just one of those things where you literally you're seeing them and you go, wow, that was so cute. And then you sit down, oh no one wrote that in. We just kind of figure, and again, the Carter fans, oh, did you see them dancing in the background? Did you see the bracelet she's wearing? I'm like, yeah, okay, wait a minute. Let's enlarge
the lick.
Yeah,
lick, yeah.
Or the great scene, yeah, she's crying and she wipes her nose and then just wipes the side of his face. Okay, well, he goes, and he doesn't even say anything. He just goes like, yeah, you need me as a tissue, as a Kleenex, because you're just wiping your snot and your slobber all over me. And so it's a joke, but it always stays in script. And I think that that's an amazing bit of Corey direction and Corey writing, that they can play these scenes out the way that they want,
Yes.
and the way that we love. Quite frankly, it's like they add some dimensions to the story that we're never really looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it makes you, and I guess that's why people get so invested in these characters. Hi, Kat. I see, I think that it's something that really gets you invested in them because they're so realistic on screen. They just seem like you would just see them at the bar or you just see them at the restaurant. That just the way that they are. Like they do really overpower that whole any scene that they're in. They're in the background and you're just watching them. You're like, what are they doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like they're acting. They just look like they're just completely in scene and character all the time. And I love that because I do feel like, and it's not just with Coronation Street, there's other shows as well, but you can sometimes tell when an actor is just kind of phoning it in. Like they're just sort of, I'm here to say the lines and I'm here to, and then I'm going to sit here and, I'm supposed to look like I'm drinking. And, Corey podcast, who I love, they have this thing called the Empty Cup Awards, and it's always like anybody who's carrying a cup, and you can tell that they're carrying an empty cup, but they're supposed to look like it's full, and they're just like consistently like just throwing it everywhere. It's like, but there's hot coffee in there. How are you doing this? And it's and you can just tell like they with Carla and Peter, like Simon poured Carla a tea or something, and he brought it to her. It was like last December or November or something like that. And she sat there and she was holding it, and it actually looked like she was like it looked like it was hot tea. You know what I mean? So they were just consistently always in character, and it just that kills me every time I think Empty Cup Awards. Like
right. Well, and again, Lucy's bringing up the fact that social distancing has made a lot of Carla and Peter's interactions feel really unnatural, and it's true because we also talked about this. You're so used to seeing them just gravitate onto each other. And I kept saying, with every other relationship that Carla has had, she's with the person, this, but with Peter, it's like a lassoing. She's on him. She's in his lap. She's around his neck.
Over him.
The drape, right? And so because there's this height disparity, they don't talk about this too much, but there's a height disparity. So sometimes this thing of her, he has to tell her do the legs, and she kind of spreads so that they're, they're matching each other's heights for kissing scenes or whatever. But then she has on these amazing boots all the time, until recently. And so all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, she's really into him in this type of way. And when you get to scenes where they're trying to make up, but they're still away from each other. In the last 3 weeks, it's been horrendous to watch, but at the same time, you see the level of acting, you see the skill set. And I say that because it's all in the emotion. So it's a lot of crying. It's a lot of, you're gonna have to act your way through this without touching each other at all. And you have to be distanced enough. So all of this fighting, and then even the making up, it had to be done in a different type of way that we're so not used to. So I think it was great that you were actually able to pull that video together. Thank you again for that. It's amazing because a few of you, if you go onto YouTube, yes, the legs. And they are doing an amazing job of it. The older episodes, which you can still watch on YouTube, the complete episodes, you see Ken and you're like, oh my God, this is like watching Peter now go through the same thing. So that the piece that you pulled together where Deidre is trying to leave Ken and she's been with Mike Baldwin and she gets to the door and she turns around and it's like, and she's telling him, I'm leaving. And she turns around and it was like, even though he didn't tell her to leave, she chose to go. It hit her just that quick. And she's like, please don't make me go.
Yeah.
I just thought, wow. Right, just don't make me leave. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm going, this is Carla saying pretty much the same thing. And so I said, yeah, the parallels were amazing, except that at the very end of this, there's no hug.
That's it. Yes. They both had all four of them had this amazing way when they're in the room together and they're able to really feel that emotion. You could feel the fact that he was just breaking Ken. I guess he's oh my gosh, like he's just completely hunched over that chair and he's just bawling his eyes out. And then she walks in and the look on her face and she's just like, I don't want to go, please don't make me go, kind of thing. And see, I get teary just thinking about it. It was so good. And then you had to see me making this thing. Okay, I was going, I gotta do this. I gotta stop crying. Trying to edit things back and forth. And, I just noticed your shirt. I'm sorry, I just noticed your shirt.
And and I can't call the name of the lovely lady who does this. If you go on Redbubble, there's a Carla and Peter designer who does the t-shirts and mugs and everything. So I was like, instead of, oh, thank you, t-shirt and banner. Yes, whenever we do London, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Maybe Canada, whenever we do the lectures and we come over, we have a little area in the hotel where we set up to meet with folks and have the print editions of whatever research we're doing. Usually it's on these guys. So it's like, come on by the hotel, pick up your stuff, and we'll have a little mixer or whatever. So this is our banner. We always have the forever love of Carla and Peter with us.
Love it. Love it.
But yeah, I think that when we start talking as a couple, if it's possible that you can have two very, very flawed people have a successful relationship, the immediate answer is always yes, of course. I just want to see that Corey follows through on this.
Yeah.
I just absolutely, and I think that they will. To be honest with you, I believe that they will. All right, I'm reading this. Leia, both of you are around my house if you come to London. Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. We try and do May and December, so we need to see what's going to happen with COVID, because I can't get out of the country right now and into any place under these restrictions. But we usually do May and October of each year, so we'll keep you posted. Keep you posted. Yes.
That is awesome.
Yes. So, and again, we try and update the information often. And I'm looking forward, Christie, if there's ever, something that you want to write or some additional research you want to toss in. We're going back through, again, we stick with Carla and Peter. We deal with other issues and other characters, but we're kind of stuck in with these two at this point. But we've dealt with the colorism with Asha, which disappeared. I'm not sure what happened with the whole skin bleaching scenario, but that didn't pop back up. And then we looked at other love relationships, including Vera and Jack, thank you. Yeah. The Duckworths. And it was like, okay, these two people fought constantly. They were always at each other's throats. And probably the most seminal part of that entire dynamic was when you get to the end of the relationship. His passing first, or her passing first. And he's there trying to put her slippers on. And it's like, okay, I'm broken. And I'm thinking, okay, you go down the line sometime and then he passes and she comes back. And so I always say, if you want to see me blubber and act just like I'm gonna do like Ken, I'm crying over the chair. It's literally one of the most amazing scenes that you will ever see. Come on, Jack.
It was gorgeous.
There's a bus in 12 minutes and I'm just like, she came back for him. It's like after all of these early episodes where she's hitting him and she's she's upset that she got the same card and she puts him out for Christmas and he has to eat next door. All of this, constantly cheating on each other, constantly fighting with each other. But Corey has a wonderful thing of not letting people stay broken apart if they're supposed to be together. Yes. And so I think it's impressive that in the same way Ken and Deidre fought, married, divorced, fought to get back together, and then stayed together until the end. Jack and Vera, same thing. You see this over and over again. And I don't doubt that at some point, Sally will end up.
Bring it back with Kevin.
Yeah. And then again, I think that all the things that kind of pulled them apart at some point, if they're still stuck on the cobbles, I think they naturally just kind of gravitate back towards each other at some point. And so I don't doubt that that'll end up happening as well. It says, let's invite Chris and Allie to join and have a sleepover. If they would come, I'd definitely invite them.
That would be hilarious. Oh my God.
And I can tell you, they have, what you see on screen is one thing, but they have to have the most amazing personalities. They are just absolutely fun people. The goal with Acumen was to have me go onto the set. I do the interview and it's recorded. I don't touch anything with the recording. I take it back to the students and I tell them, you have to learn how to get the story out of what you hear. So you need to listen to all of the dynamics of this. And a number of the students were just
no.
How are we supposed to get through this when all we hear is laughter? I mean, we are in stitches from the time it starts until it was time to leave out of them. We maybe talked for about an hour and a half. And it was just hysterical. They're like an old married couple. And so it was just the ribbing and the jibing at each other constantly. And Allison Sinclair, thank you so very much. Senior publicist over at ITV. She was in the room with us. And it was just hysterical. So I'm trying to keep a straight face. And yes, Chris, can you tell me, what do you think draws Peter to Carla with all the women he's had and da-da-da-da? And I'm really serious. I'm like, yes. And he goes, well, and before he could answer, Allie jumps in and says, oh, she's filthy in bed. And I was like, what? Wait, huh? Huh? So, all of the professionalism it was like, what? Allison Sinclair is in the corner. She's in hysterics. And then he's like, why do you say things like that? So we're laughing. And so I realized they're just heckling each other. They're just constantly heckling and ribbing each other. So you see a lot of this come out on set. And I think that they know that they're there for each other, to make sure that these scenes hit and that they're amazing. And so they have a lot of fun in the process of doing them. And so I think that we see all of that. And so just from that point on, I realized, oh, these are like old friends or something. So they're just talking trash. And we're going to get to the good parts of this. But there's a whole bit of this that was like, there's no sense in even adding this to this article, because it will simply detract from what it is that we're supposed to be doing.
This is probably why they don't do interviews very often.
Right. And
how would you get through it?
and I feel so absolutely honored that I was among a
Yeah.
very, very few in the 60 years that the
Yeah.
show has been on that got to actually sit down and come to the set and do this. And so I don't
Amazing.
take that lightly at all. And then, you know, as I'm leaving, I end up on the train with Chris by complete accident. And so I'm thinking, all right, I'm ready to get back to London from Manchester. He's headed to London and we see each other and I'm like, what are you following me or something? And he goes, oh my goodness, I'm going to get my stuff and I'm going to come back and sit with you. And I'm thinking, really? I'm so used to America and Hollywood. And so I was half thinking, okay, he's going to put some sunglasses on and go like, like piss off, you know, we're done. Yeah. But he literally comes back and he sits, and for the next 2 hours, we're just clowning. We have just the most amazing dialogue about nothing in particular. And so I really start to understand how important and valuable Chris Gascoigne is to the Coronation Street brand at that point. And I think once again, even though Allie has received a number of awards, I still think that she is under-recognized and Chris is absolutely overlooked. I am sore usually whenever there's ceremonies and awards and it's like, okay, well, Chris Gascoigne, oh my God, where's his award? All right. And so I don't know, guys, we may need to come up with an award specifically for the two of them at some point. Yeah. But it's like, it's an international reach and it's believable and it's wonderful. You know, they hit their marks every time.
Every time. And it, like you said, it can be one small scene of them, or it could be the big stuff. They hit every scene they're in. I mean, I love some of the scenes with Carla just being hilarious and laughing. I mean, one of my favorite scenes of her was I think it was 2015 when she was helping Nick at the bistro and she's pouring the wine for Sally, and she just has all of these like one-liners where she's like, you do know that's what wine's made out of, grapes. Like, what do you expect it to taste like? Chicken kind of thing. And it was just, oh my gosh, it's so funny. But she hits them so well. And Chris, like, he gets his comedy ones as well. Like, the facial expressions and the little things they do in the scenes. Yeah,
it's the face. And you know, we try and compare folks out. And I just kept saying, Chris does this thing. It's a very Robert De Niro-ish type of face. If you've ever seen the film that Midnight Run, that you don't get Robert De Niro too often doing comedy, but a lot of it is just in his face. And so every now and again, he'll do something and it's just this weird face where it's like, okay, that's funny. I don't even know if he intended that to be funny, but that's hysterical. And of course, Chris's interactions when he's with his stepsister. You know, his and Tracy's interactions are always comical. You know, and then they're not necessarily trying to be comical, but when she tells him, you might as well leave the house because how old are you? You can go to the old folks home retirement village with Dad. Why are you even trying to stay here? You know, it's an amazing camaraderie, I think, and the professionalism shows, the skill set shows. But I think in the end, they're just having an amazing amount of fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%. Like, you can see it. They're awesome. Oh gosh, I love them.
All right, guys, we're coming down to an hour and a half. We've been on here chatting. Yes, Kay Ford, great actress. If there are other questions, guys, please. We're gonna top this off probably in the next 5 minutes to give you a chance to ask us any questions you have about our research or anything else. So as you're sitting there, get to hitting those keyboards.
Yes.
But yeah, Christie, I'm really, like I said, impressed with the level of your work and that whole piece about the regression of the characters that we're seeing. Do you think that they'll be able to pull them back, kind of get them to revolve?
Yeah, I do. As you know, right now, all the stuff that Peter is saying to her, all the way that he's acting towards her and everything, she did the same thing when she found out about Tina. You know what I mean? Like, she said some horrible things to him as well. Like, the one thing I absolutely drove me crazy when she said to him, she gave him the bottle and she told him to go drink himself to death. And I was like, oh, Carla, no. So, like, so there's things that they say that you kind of knew that was going to happen, that he's going to lash out. And I think that they're going to come back because, again, I do thoroughly believe that they have a genuine, unconditional love for each other. And that is a huge foundation that people can only dream about having in a relationship with somebody. That's a foundational thing. And I was very honest when I said in the blog, like, that's something I didn't have in my relationship. That was something that it wasn't there on, it was there on my side, it wasn't there on his. And in order to have a strong foundation, you need that. So I do think that they have it, regardless of all of this other crap that they do. They have that solid foundation, but they keep wanting to build their relationship on the house of cards. You know what I mean? They've got the concrete, but they're like, I'd rather build it over here. Let's go on the house of cards. This is more fun. So it's like, they're like children. So, but I do think that they can come back from it. I do not want it to be like a love triangle, or like, not a love triangle, like a baby who's the daddy thing. I don't want that. I want it to be that it's, if she's going to get pregnant, it's Peter's and they have to come into it. Oh, let's just hope we don't find out that Carla is pregnant with Adam's baby. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. So one of the questions that just came up from Kat, do you guys have a standout scene for Carla and Peter from over the years?
Do you have one? Yeah, I got to think of one. There's so many.
Right. You know what? I think just in recent years, the New Year's Eve in the pool hall, in the snooker hall, I think that was probably the most honest. It was very gentle and genuine. And I started to see that turn from the let's just have sex and we're really into each other. She's trying to resist him, but she's letting him know, I'm not rejecting you. And I thought that was really important. It showed a different level of maturity. And you saw it a few episodes before that, I guess, where she's walking home and he's like, yeah, take my arm. And, he says, I'll scrub your back. And she's like, like, no, but she doesn't, it's not a hard rejection, And so I think it gave him hope at that point that the relationship could rebound. And then when you have the snooker hall scenes, I just thought that those were extremely well played out. And it gave me hope that, okay, they've reached a new level. They're going to be okay. So that would be it for me.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to agree with that. And the second one that comes to mind, just to give a different scene, is the one recently with where she confronted Jordan and Chelsea in the pub, and just how Peter was just the silent bodyguard to her, like just standing there as her pillar of strength. Really, like she's mentioned it before, that he was a pillar of strength to her. And I think that was that scene where he just stood there and listened and was ready to kind of jump in if needed, but then he just hugged her and told her like how much he loved her, and he's never been so proud of her. And I thought that was so beautiful. And I was like, oh, they're getting into this great mature relationship. And then it's like, no. Then Corey ruined it.
Right. And Kat is right. I think the follow-up to that scene with the pizza, it was what we call domestic intimacies, where you get to see them, just in a bathrobe and eating pizza and just communicating with each other. And I think, again, it literally said that all of that, the hot passion might still be there, but it's like you start to see that they just enjoy being with each other. And so, again, I think that's why this whole, the regression of the characters into this other thing that we're dealing with right now was just so surprising. It was like, oh, that was just beautiful. That was just very, it wasn't overwhelming. It was just like, wow, okay, they're going to sit there and eat pizza. And he's just, do you know how much I love you? And you're like, okay, this is good. This is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that definitely, so I'm going to cry now. Yeah. They've matured, they've gotten to a good point. The odd thing about that, again, what you keep seeing is when the two of them are okay, the rest of the world is shut out. they're literally on their own and they're okay. So it's when, and I hate to say it like this, but it's when Simon comes back in, or when Johnny and Jenny come back in, or when Abby comes back in, or when these other folks kind of get into that space. And so once again, I'm gonna say it's something about those bloody cobbles.
Yep.
Can you do like can you do like Audrey did at one point and live nearby? And so you can still have your scenes, but get off that bloody block, because as long as you're on the cobbles, you're always too intimately involved in other people's whatever.
And they need their own place. They need their own place. It's a little ridiculous that they don't have their own place yet. They need a space that's their own, that's even if it's a small little flat, it's just their own space, because there's too many, like you said, there's too many other people coming in and out. It's too many, it's just not healthy. It's not healthy for him to be living in a pub. It's not healthy for her to be living in a pub. They need to be on their own space. So I'm advocating, anybody from Corey is listening, get them their own space 2021, please.
Yes, thank you. We co-sign on that.
Yeah, and and Carla needs to get back into a business, and it needs to, I don't want it to be the factory. I want, actually, my dream would be her and Leanne running the bistro. That would be hilarious, because they would just be at each other's throats and make for some really comedic scenes. But it would be nice for the two of them to, because I feel they're both these kind of strong women that are wasted in what they're doing right now. It would be kind of nice to see them both just butting heads, because they're awesome when they're butting heads together. I don't know if it would ever work long term, but it would be hilarious.
You know, that would be, you know, amazing in and of itself. My thing, I've never, it's like you, I'm all right with Leanne until Carla's there. And it's not as if you have to choose between the two, but you know, I still want there to be at least one good bust up. And I'm sorry for this, but I really want the two. There's a fight that the two of them were supposed to have had some time ago. And I just really, I need them to get that out of their systems. And I need Carla to win that fight. I just literally, Leanne is always threatening to give her a fat lip, and it's always, she's just, she's at her. And I just really, I need them to have one good bust up. And then after that, they can be the best of friends. They can go back to being the way they were. But I've always been bothered by the fact that Carla is always the victim of Leanne's foolishness.
Yes.
Right? The accusations, the whatever, stay away from my family, stay away from my sister. Da, 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 da. And so, right, I want to scrap. Yeah, I want the two of them to get a, you know, Leanne can get a few licks in, but I just want Carla to hold her down for just a minute and sock her. And
and I agree, because you know, when they started to get back together, where they started to have like a good friendship after you know, Peter had left the street, or when after that whole situation with Tina, and then she started to, you know, help out and everything else, and kind of be a bit of a support to Carla, even though she wasn't being like super friendly with her. And then the Victoria Court fire happened, and she just automatically went, yeah, Carla's responsible. And then when it was found out that it wasn't her, it was Tracy, she still never apologized. She still never did it. And she just still walked around with a chip on her shoulder, as Leanne does. And, you know, she just, it would be really great to have Carla be like, you know what, I'm really sick of your crap. Like, you have to do that with your friends sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sick of your crap. Like, I'm done with you. But I would love to see them have like a full-on scrap, get all of that stuff out, and then be like, okay, we're cool now. Let's go have a drink. Let's go sit down. Their hair all out of place, like an earring hanging off, and be like, okay, we're good. Let's go.
I think that would be awesome. And it's like, okay, now it's over. All right. And now we can get back to it. You see Peter and Nick constantly fighting. And those have been some amazing, great fights, and they've been hysterical. Hilarious. But it's always that threat that poor Carla is under, that Leanne is going to try and get at her. And even when Carla comes in, it's like, I'm going to be friendly and kind to you. You saw what happened with Toya, and when Peter says, okay, am I having a stroke here? Because I got 4 of my ex-lovers in this space. I got Toya, Leanne, Michelle. I always forget that Peter slept with Michelle too.
Yeah. Again, we're all trying to forget that. So.
Right. So, you have all four of these women in here, and Carla and Michelle are being just as nice. But it's the, so it's like, yes, these Battersby women over here with the foolishness and everything kicks off. Even then, Carla just graciously bows out of this, and it's like, yeah, I need her just once. Just once. Corey, can we get a good bust up, and then, it'll be okay.
Isolate the two actresses, let them have their social distancing, let them get their thing, let them go, get them in a social bubble, and let them scrap. Please, let's do this.
Well, you know what? And the way Corey could probably do that, they were doing those exhibition boxing matches for charity or something. It was like, put the two of them against each other for just a minute, and that way it doesn't have to be an argument or a blowout. But I need Leanne to get socked at least one good time by Carla.
One time.
That would do me good.
One time.
Once.
They need a friend. They need a friendship on. And again, that's one of the things I have with Coronation Street right now is you don't see friendships outside of relationships and outside of like siblings or family. So Peter needs a good friend. You need, like he had it with Steve. They need to show that again. And you need to have Carla with somebody that's, like Leanne or somebody. She needs somebody there to be a friend that they can talk to, because they don't have anybody else except each other. And it's not just them, it's every other character doesn't have somebody. Look at Leanne. The only person she had was Toya and Nick during this whole thing with Oliver. And it's like, where are your friends? Like, where's somebody to help and lean on? So they need to develop those again. They need to develop friendships outside of romantic interests and outside of, we're setting up a friendship with Carla and Sarah just because she's gonna sleep with her husband.
But that's that pattern. So every time Carla gets a female friend, she sleeps with the woman's boyfriend or husband. So it's like, no, you need to find her. You need her to find a friend for her like Mary.
Yeah. That's a great friendship. Yes.
Yeah. Somewhere. And Nina, I think Nina was okay, but then, they're pushing these young men, onto Carla now. So it's like, no, that may not work. No. So yeah, just can Carla and Tracy ever get to a point where they're okay with each other?
I'd like to see it, but I also love the fact that they're always at each other's throats as well. But I think they could have a really interesting one as well. They could. I think it would be really neat. So yeah.
Haley was perfect. And so it would be great. Someone also who could steer Carla in the right direction. You notice that they've always kept Rita away from Carla, which to me is kind of odd, because in her heyday, Rita, Carla's another Rita in many instances. I don't think that she slowed down anywhere near that much, but that whole independent woman with these bad men sometimes, it's this is Rita, but Rita and Carla, they literally crisscross each other a lot. And I think that she would have enough wisdom sometimes to kind of, whisper in her ear. She needs someone older and a bit settled.
And a mother figure.
Who can pull her.
She needs a mother figure, yeah.
Right. That's odd. They don't have anyone mothering her. I mean, not just, you understand what I mean. Just,
they don't. I mean, I love the relationship between her and Roy, because that is literally my favorite partnership on the entire show. They're just adorable, but they don't have anybody really. Yeah, she needs a mother figure. She does. Like, she needs someone to kind of, and Roy, as great as he is, he's only capable of so much emotion and understanding because that's his character. So she needs somebody who's able to get on that level a little more. So that would be great. And I love her and Jenny. I love her and Jenny together, Carla and Jenny. So I hope they develop more of those scenes.
All right. I see Paula, Kat is saying that Paula and Carla would make awesome.
Good friendship.
Yeah. And that's possible. But again, the way Corey is playing this, Carla and Paula will end up sleeping with each other, and then you end up having Tracy upset.
Oh, now there would be a triangle. Tracy, Paula, and Carla. We're waiting for the delay to hit to see if everybody's going to hear that going on here.
Right. You hear that, right? So yeah, I don't think I want that.
No.
Just yeah. No, like I said, something you can't just keep saying it like Carla is the whore of the cobbles. I don't like this theme. I don't like this pattern. It's like just every woman on that block they're doing enough. They're okay. So it's like, don't make this just a part of her natural order to think. I think she's been faithful to these husbands when she was with them for the most part. She started out okay with this. So I just don't think the labeling is fair. And I think they've given her a bad rap with these family members. That's just, which Barlow boy and poor, like I said, poor Adam is bad enough, but poor Daniel. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
and then poor Adam. And then, so, yeah. And so, like I said, the comments, if you go on Twitter, someone's like, yeah, you're going to find out that, she slept with Ken at some point and no one wants to talk about it because Ken. Have you know?
Oh no!
Ken gets a book and does like this. He won't look up. So we're making jokes about it, but it's like, I don't really like that's become.
Yeah, and it is something that does happen on the cobbles a lot. Like there are other characters who have slept with family members of whoever they're with. So I mean, like look at Peter got together with Toya after being with Leanne, after being married with Leanne. That was the weirdest partnership, I'm not gonna lie. And then we've got Leanne had cheated on Jamie Baldwin with his father, Danny Baldwin. Then Jamie went on to sleep with his stepmother, who was, Danny's wife. And it's like, so they all have this, they do tend to have these familiar, like this kind of keep it in the family. But for some reason with Carla, they're like, we're going to keep blowing this out of the park. Like the Connors and then Allie. And then we're going to have, the Barlows.
Barlow.
Tick, tick, tick. Yeah.
So, and that's why I said, I don't mind if you want to make her, a fresh pot. All right. I'm not even going to bother with that because you have Liz. And, I think someone was trying to count the number of lovers that Liz had. And I was thinking maybe 12. And when they finished, I think they said it was 21 or 22.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I said, okay, all right. That's, so no, Carla's nowhere near that number, but it's just the men that she chooses.
Girl needs to go out of her social circle. Like, could you not have slept with Constantine the cleaner that seemed to have liked you? Like you couldn't have slept with him. Like you had to sleep with Adam and had to be Adam. Like
right. Can you not do that? Robert was horrible. That was just bad. Yeah. So hey, Corey, just let Peter get better. Let them just cool out a little bit.
Let
them come to this. Carla will move on to the Webster's checklist. At this rate, no. Yes.
No, keep away from Kevin.
Keep away. Come on. It's too much. It's just way too much. It's way too much. Or like I said, you find out, did she actually sleep with Roy? No.
No, please don't ruin that for me.
That was a bad joke.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a really, really bad joke. Please don't.
No.
All right.
That's hilarious.
Well, guys, if you have any other questions, post them. Otherwise, we're going to start to wrap this up. Just the taste. Yeah. And perhaps we'll do this again, Christie, as this storyline starts to unfold. I understand that the whole first half of 2021 will keep Carla and Peter at the forefront of all of our imaginations.
That is really good. They need that. They need to, and I want to see how they're going to go forward with this. And I really think that they're going to do something with his liver. Well, obviously they are going to do. I'm really hoping that it's going to be showing the reality that he has to be sober for 6 months to get a transplant, that he's going to be, the only thing that really kind of hit me was that whole method acting, where it says he has to go full, one of the characters is going to go full method actor, is what Ian McLeod had said in a interview. Okay. And that is always weird for me because an actor chooses to be method as opposed to being a requirement of a storyline. So it would be interesting to see what they mean, and all I can think of is potential weight loss, because he might have to lose weight for to show the reality of liver cirrhosis.
But is it Peter's character or is it Carla's character that has to do the
It
method?
could be her. It could be hers. Yeah, and that would be interesting.
Wow.
What how she would go method actor. So
Right, when you
because
said
she
that,
went for
I was thinking, wait, what could it be? Yeah, it could be him, but yeah, that would be
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that's all I can really think of because I'm like, how would you be a method actor? How can it be a requirement? Like it has to be something that they have to do physically, I'm
Physically,
assuming. So that's why I would assume it's him because I think this storyline is his, which I am so in support of. I want it to be his storyline and she's supporting him because he is, like you said, he's completely overlooked all the time. And he needs a really good thing to sink his teeth into. And I think this would be great. This would be great.
and I think that what'll end up happening, because again, it's part of who they are as a team. Whatever, she's getting put out of her own house, by the way, which I still don't quite get. All right, you're getting put out of the pub and she's left, but Peter's going to have to get her back in order to go through whatever it is that he's going through. And so I see that, you know, on the horizon. Like you could say you don't want her and that's that, but whenever he's in crunch time, where's Carla? And it's going to be just like Peter, please, Peter. It's going to be where's Carla in order for him to get through this. So I think it'll end up bringing the two of them closer together, but not really sure exactly how this will pan out. And then we still have to figure out what's going on with Simon, because I don't like the fact that you've had someone putting it into his head that he needs to get Shona telling him, yeah, you need to get whoever's causing the problems.
Yeah.
Don't tell him that, okay? Don't tell him that.
Don't give that kid any excuse to get violent. Like,
I just why would, and he literally looked like, oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe I could just go.
If he had a beard or if he had like a mustache, he'd be twirling it. Like
It's like his head slopes, so he's like, yeah. I need them to please give Simon something that's very sweet and humane and lovely so that he can just stop being this kid who's spiraling. Okay.
Yeah.
He's been spiraling since he was about 5. Come on.
Yeah.
He really needs a break, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
New life for Simon. Mad about Shona's suggestion. Yeah, that's what I said. Just, you know, Shona giving him terrible advice. But here's the thing. If he's angry anyway, first of all, he knows that Shona's in a compromised place. So he just needs an excuse at this point, you know, to kind of go through that whole process. So,
I'm
not trying to blame Shona. It's like, you know, Shona didn't realize she wasn't supposed to eat the cake or something like a couple weeks ago. So.
Didn't she make like a dinosaur cake or something for Leanne after Oliver passed away? She's like, oh, I just want to bake them a cake. It's like, okay. No.
Like, you're not taking advice from her right now. And I'm for them to go ahead and pull her out of that. So it's like, this has gone on for quite a while now. Someone assessing her mental health and just the injury and just this is a whole new character. It's like I need to pull up a little bit at this point.
One thing I would like to see for Carla right now is I would like to have a scene with her and Faye. Because of I think that is something that you can absolutely put together, have these two characters who haven't really interacted very much, but this is something that she has knowledge about, that she's able to kind of help her out with, have a nice person to kind of put a bit of a focus into. That's not just Peter. I would love to see her have a scene with Faye. I think it's necessary. And when you've got the amount of people on the street who have been sexually abused, starting with Toya's rape back in like 2001, and then you had Carla, and then you had David and Faye now as well. Carla a second time, and then Faye. I think that's something it's missing. You need something there, and I think having her have a conversation with Faye would be really good.
Even with Bethany and David, especially Bethany
as well. I always forget Bethany.
Again, what it's almost like they just moved on. And I think that that's part of the issue. I think Carla would be able to see it in Faye that she's just trying to act like it didn't happen. And you're right. I think that it would be phenomenal to have the two of them have some type of dialogue where Carla can tell her, I know what it is that you're feeling right now. And you need to, you know, even if you don't talk to someone else, you know, you can sit down and talk to me and I get it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
They need to promote that type of camaraderie as much as possible, I think, you know.
Yeah.
Because these folks are
Absolutely.
living in their heads. David, I'm still expecting something else to come out of this. And I don't like the fact that it's so hidden at this point. So something has to trigger it. And so it's like, yeah, you know, every day you're living with the fact that this has happened.
Yeah.
I think, right. So it doesn't mean that all of a sudden Carla is weak. It means she's doing this the way most people live it. Faye, you're starting to see it in her. Bethany, I think that you saw it with her, and she had therapy for it. I think that if they're not going to show a therapy situation again for Faye, then it should definitely be a conversation or some interaction between Carla and Faye. And again, that background where you're not really sure what's happened in Faye's early childhood between foster care and getting to Anna, and then, you know, reconnecting with Tim. So she and Carla may have a lot in common that we just don't know.
Exactly. And that would be a good one to pursue. And especially because Gary is so you know, protective of Faye. I mean, he is quite protective of Faye. He's not really there all the time, but he's, you know, he believes that he's very protective of Faye. So but that would be an interesting one to see how he would deal with that, knowing I just want Gary to have some sort of guilt over, like, just show a bit of remorse after the fact that he let that roof collide. He sabotaged the roof, that Carla was went off the rails because of it, that Imran lost his sister, that he caused all this suffering, and he just walks around like the ginger ninja that he is, and he's just like, I'm fine, everything's cool. And like, it's like, no, there has to be some, I want to see some remorse from him. If not, then it needs to wrap. Like, you cannot have a character on, well, no, you have Tracy.
I was like, Tracy. Tracy's killed a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fire, and then, you know, the poor guy that got clubbed in the head, the first husband, you know. So it's just like, and she's a mischief maker. But, you know, her greatest destruction is herself. So she's just constantly falling into pits. And so, but again, you see how they normalized her. They just kind of flattened her out a little bit, which has been wonderful. So she gets the florist. She starts working with Mary. She has an everyday basic type of existence with these little minor bumps. And so again, I'm even though that's not necessarily the nature of Carla's character, I'm eager to see her just kind of calm it down. You know, let's bring some normalcy and some everyday to she and Peter. And then, you know, prayerfully, if you're saying it, she'll, you know, she'll be with Peter while he's trying to go through his liver issues.
Yes.
And they can come out on the other side of that in a really, really healthful, happy kind of way.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay, guys, we have officially reached a 2-hour point. So yay! Super excited about that. Again, we're gonna see if we can do this again in coming weeks, and we'll kind of play it by ear. Any of you who didn't get questions in now, you can always post questions on Twitter. You can come back and visit this. I'm going to save it to the Acumen Group page here on Facebook. Feel free to work through that and add additional questions. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been great.
Thank you. I love this. This is fantastic. It's like we could just talk for hours.
I know, it's just like, okay, the time is marching and we're good. But I know it's getting late over there. You're with me, Christie, on EST, but it's like, yeah, you guys are getting into the darkness over there of night. So we're going to close this out. But thank you again so much for joining us. This has been brilliant. And look forward to doing it again really, really soon.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Right. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.